Hello everybody. Today I have a quick successful fix that I wanted to share with anybody who's interested. Hopefully this will help you. This is for a 94 Jeep Wrangler, my Jeep. It's a Jeep YJ. The problem I was having is resetting the trip meter, the trip odometer. The odometer was working fine, still counting miles. The speedometer was working fine, but the trip odometer, the trip meter, was counting fine, but I was having a hard time resetting it back to zero. Given that the fuel gauge doesn't work in my Jeep, this is my fuel gauge. So I depend on being able to reset the trip meter to keep track of the miles, so I don't run out of fuel. And like I said, this was, I could press on the reset button fairly hard, and that was not moving. They were stuck. I could see them jiggling a little, but not rotating back, resetting back to zero. And I'm going to show you what I've done to fix that. And it was fairly simple. Now, I'm not going to show how to remove the cluster from the Jeep. It's fairly simple. A few screws all around, remove the plastic bezels. There's more screws holding this in place. Get the screws that get in the way, that seem like hold this in place. Take them off. This is going to fall right out. On the left side of the cluster, this is where the plug is. Be careful with that, so that when you pull this out of the Jeep, don't rip that out. The connection, just keep in mind that the plug, the connection for the whole cluster is behind your tachometer, on the left side of the cluster. Now, as far as removing the speedometer itself from here, it's fairly simple. In the front over here, you have, take this plastic lens off. You have 3 screws here, and there's a plastic clip right here holding it in place. Pull that back, pull the lens off, plastic lens comes off. Now, I'm recording this after the fact. I've already been in here, I've already fixed it. I kind of retraced my steps a little bit to walk you through it a little bit. Anyways, screws come off, lens comes off, this little plastic bezel comes off. Now you're stuck with the speedometer. This comes off very easy. Do not try to pull off the needle or either one of these 2 screws. The reason for that is if you pull the needle, the little motor that winds the needle up will lose its position. You'll never get the needle to point at the right speed after that when you put it back on. So there's no need. Do not touch the needle. Don't pull it out. If you look on the back side, there's electrical connections over here with 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3. I already pulled them off. You can see them over there. Take those 3 screws off, and the tachometer, speedometer combo slides out. It is literally that easy. Once you pull the screws out the back, this lifts out. Now you have access to the counter, the digits of the trip meter. Now, this is partially disassembled already. The button, you'll notice that the reset button is missing out of this, and here it is. I've already taken it off. It's, like I said, I've already been in here. This would normally go in there. There's a little plunger. That's what pushes down on this little doohickey to reset the digits. So that goes on there like that and screws in place. So there's 2 little screws, 2 little guide pins, the alignment pins, and then 2 screws. There's 2 screws that hold this plunger in place. This is your reset button. So now, once you pull this off, take those 2 screws off, you slide the plunger off, and now you come here. These digits, this lever is the one that resets them back to 0. Underneath, it's very tiny little plastics, but inside there's little fingers that push on each individual digit wheel. And the side of each one of those wheels, I believe, I haven't completely dismantled this, and I'm not going to. But as far as I can tell, if this is your digit wheel, divided with all the digits on the outside, in the center axle, common axle, which is this one, that axle, from there to here, that's the axle that all the digits are running on. And I believe that there is something to the effect of a cam, like that, on the side of each one of the wheels. And what you're doing, when you push down on the button, you're doing two things. The little gears that mesh each one of the digits, the counter wheels, you retract those, separate those, that way you can spin the digits freely. And on the bottom of this is little fingers that come up and push on these on these cams on each one of the digits. That as that finger comes up and pushes on this, it's going to try to rotate that cam to its lowest position. And that lowest position is lined up to with the 0 on the top of the dial face. So if the cam is, let's say, happened to be in this position, with the 9 or a 2 or a 4 or 5 or whatever digit showing on your trip meter, when you push down on the plunger, it trips, it pushes up on a little finger, a little lever that pushes up on the cam, and it's going to rotate that digit and stop when the 0 is at the top. And I'm going to try to show the workings of this right here. Okay, there we go. If I spin I free the counter wheel, the little mesh gears, and I move one of the digits out of 0. There we go. Oh, I keep pressing this. There, it moved away from 0. When I push down on this, now it resets back to 0 effortlessly. The problem I was having is too much friction from dirt or age, whatever. There was too much friction. The wheels, the drums, the digits were spinning freely enough. I could sit there and spin them, and there hardly any friction. But there was a lot of friction between the lever, the finger that came up and pushes on that cam. It was pushing on the cam, but not really getting it to spin. It may be that there's a little bit of wear on that little finger that pushes up on it, whatever it is. I'm not going to go investigate any deeper. But what I did was I got a little needle with WD-40 in it. I did not go squirting WD-40 inside of there because I didn't want WD-40 is conductive. Don't ask me how I know. But I didn't want any of the WD-40 to get on the circuit board and short out any of these chips over here. I wanted to very precisely apply a little tiny amount of WD-40 where those little fingers go and push on those cams. So this is where the needle comes in. From the spray can, I sprayed WD-40 onto the needle, into it, the syringe, and I went around and I applied a drop, just a drop of WD-40 on each one of those fingers. And I spun the numbers around and I worked the fingers and the lever, and it got to a point with just a tiny amount of WD-40 between each one of these digits. It freed it up like a miracle. Again, let me see if I can get it wound up enough, out of line. There you go. Now I push down on here and it goes right back to 0. It resets effortlessly. Now let me put it all back together. See you in a minute. Actually, you know what? Before I put it together, let me clean this up a little because it's filthy. Okay, not perfect, but better. Good enough. All right, let me see. Okay. Plunger works. By the way, if anybody knows where I can find one of these rubber boots to cover the trip meter reset button, let me know in the comments, wherever, because this one is cracked and kind of rigid. I would like to get a new one of these. Yeah, keep dust from getting in here. We're good. We're off to the races. I hope it helped somebody. See you guys. See you next time. Stay safe. Do me a favor. Don't forget to plug the cluster back in after you put it on. Don't be like me. Make sure. Okay. Now we're back in business. Install it again for the second time. Alright, it's a few miles later, and let's see how well it worked. Success.